child of God. Spoken about the innocence of the child of God. But the truth is that through the entire journey of remembering, you stay a child because it's necessary. It's absolutely necessary to be untainted in that perfect way that sometimes a child, even though they're already developing their ego, forming it, honing it, there are places where the child realizes it doesn't know and it needs help to learn. And so we stay in that learning identity as long as we are walking the earth. Because as soon as that child learning place is tossed aside or put in the closet, there's no more learning. The learning halts to a crawl because it's now a competition between the ego trying to compete with truth. And the love doesn't compete, so steps aside to let the ego have its way while it insists on that agreement. Now, the ego doesn't overcome anything that you aren't willing. It's all with willingness. Sometimes it's unconscious willingness, but it's a willingness to let the ego run. There's many, many purposes for that in the ego's mind. It's what you know, that's the major thing. And there is an agreement that you like what you know. It's a high. It's a satisfaction that seems to come only to you. So it becomes special. It's the same thing as the child who runs when their parent comes home with their drawing and saying, "Look what I did. I did. I did this." And that I is continuously within the journey wanting that same unconscious recognition of worth, of being liked, of belonging, all the different ways that the ego makes separation seem real. It's almost a contradiction in the truth of love. You can have a thought that says, "Oh, when I was at the grocery store today, I felt like I belonged. I felt a different belonging." But it's also to remember that you have never been without that belonging. When you have a moment that it comes through, in recognition, it's to also recognize, oh, this is reality. It's not that the other is reality and this is the healing, even though it is a healing. It's reality. It's what has always been. And the belief that you didn't belong is there out of the belief of separation. So in healing, it's so essential when that feeling comes up, when that idea comes up of not belonging or being feeling the separation, that you deny it. It's not to walk away from it and pretend to go to another distraction. It's really to stop and deny it. It cannot be that you are separate, and to accept that loving truth moment to moment in every situation, whether there's just the you standing or there is a group, it's all that same love and resting in that love. I'll repeat these beautiful lyrics. And this is also from Jose, or from Jose's Divine Connection. The fever of love. Here I want to consecrate with the angels of heaven. Forever I must love. Forever I must love. Fever of love, we must consecrate and give worth to each other. Forever loving each other. Let's go, all beloveds, to unite in this current of love with all divine beings in our hearts and in our minds. Going to the heart, we arrive resting with humility and forgiveness through the doors to the altar. We enter into a fine study, fine study. We simply pay attention moment to moment. No hooking in the personal thoughts and ideas as we extend our hearts. My mother, my father, please help me to remember to be a child of yours, of love and perfection. Turn, 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 and you will discover your eternal existence. My Divine Mother, I ask for your blessing to have love in my heart as I walk this earth, never to fall down as you show me the way. I ask all the angels to help me to find love and the truth of oneness. I feel joy, I feel joy, I feel joy in my heart. Oh, my Father, I thank you for giving me your hand. You gave me your hand to bring me out of the darkness. My Father, here I give you my life and my heart. I surrender to you to fulfill my journey. You are the one who holds me as I stumble in this world of illusion. You support me, you show me the way. For me to be able to walk with firmness and humility, I want to learn to love. It is a time for union, a time for concentration, time for purification and the study of the true heart. Oh, my Divine Mother, You are always with me. Help me in this journey to the union of love. One of the gifts that I received from Jose was a very material one. It was never his intention to be living in a community and supporting that community while he lived in that community. And he gave everything to it. And what he left was his practice as a doctor, his practice as a therapist. He left. He left the country, he left everything. And it isn't for everyone to walk that same way. But there was what he showed with it was the happiness of service. I had no other information about being of service. And all I had to do was watch him because all his energy went to that one purpose. And everyone has that within them. It's the recognition of our one heart and the willingness to serve, serve the heart of love. This was the first hymn I learned. And it was given to many of us as almost a child's song. And it was appropriate because we needed to be like children. I am the shine of sun, I am the shine of moon, I give the shine to stars because they all follow me. I am the shine of sea, I live in the wind, I shine in the forest because it belongs to me. Because it belongs to me. I shine in the forest. I had never even heard something that was supposed to be spiritual be so welcoming, so true, to allow the love to be accepted. I am the shine of sun. Just imagine greeting someone and just repeating that. You are the shine of sun. You are the shine of the moon, open to the capacity of offering that love. Nothing looking for anything to happen, just the wanting for that blessing to touch everyone. Once a young man came to me and said, "Dear Master, I am feeling strong and brave today, and I would like to know the truth about all my attachments." And I asked, "Attachments? Sweetheart, do you really want me to speak to you about all your attachments? When I can see so clearly you have built with so much care a great brothel to house all your pleasures. You have even surrounded the whole damn place with armed guards and vicious dogs to protect your desires, so that you can sneak away from time to time and try to squeeze light from a source as fruitful as a dried date pit that even a bird is wise enough to spit out. Your attachments, my dear, let's not speak of those, because this is the understanding of your heart's suffering. We know the torments and the agonies that every mind on the way to annihilation in the sun must endure. So at night in my prayers, I often stop and ask 1,000 angels to join and applaud anything that will bring you comfort. So, what happens to the attachments? The asking, this young man that's speaking to Hafiz, his asking opens everything. He wants to be free of his attachments. That is all that's really needed. But what are the attachments? Just imagine that for how many lifetimes you honed a defense system. You don't have to imagine too much because everybody feels it within them. But all kinds of defenses. They come in all shapes and sizes, and they only have one purpose. The purpose is to protect, to defend. Proving is defending. Winning is defending. Losing is defending. Right and wrong is defending. The, the relationship to defense is so central, so in the center of the ego. If nothing else, it counts on its defense because it's so varied and so all encompassing. You can use anger for defense, you can use sadness for defense, you can change your moods for defense, you can have reactions, you can be worried, or you can be high, ecstatic over something in your mind. But none of those elements have any peace. And it's peace that is the center of love. How can you bring peace to another? First, in that moment, there's a little awakening. Oh, that's right. I'm here to offer peace. Is that my thought? Is my thought to offer peace? Or is my thought to be defended in some way that's familiar? There's a hymn that I will not sing, but it it was a prayer that I sang every night. Examine your conscience. Examine your purpose. Where have you spent your love? It was such a an invitation. Examine your conscience. And the rest of the prayer was about coming home, in letting go of your mistaken ideas, your habits. You open your consciousness, which holds your unconscious, holds an entire identity and defense system that doesn't really let you know that it's fear. It just runs from behind the shadows. And yet, how does healing occur if that's running? You have within you a willingness and a longing for truth. You have it. And that's what keeps getting stirred and keeps getting pulled into being truly conscious. Truly conscious. But it may be one of the most, not difficult, it can seem difficult, but it's more that it's like being a stranger in a strange land. You felt like a stranger in a strange land in your regular life. And then when you step into the spiritual journey and go deeper, it's it evokes that same place of being a stranger in a strange land, except that it's the lie. It's the lie. The regular way you feel in the world is being a stranger in a strange place. That's why there's compensation all the time, or worry all the time, or winning all the time. It's to make up for the fears that come. But just as this young man said, I feel strong and brave today to look at my attachments. Ask in the morning, I want to be strong and brave today. I want to be strong and brave. I want to be gentle. I want to be honest. I want to be kind. But most of all, I want to be honest. Because with honesty, self-honesty, you hold the key. Consistency is honesty. So you consistently bring yourself back to the heart, to love, so that you can share that love, express that love to whoever it is that is there to receive it. And it doesn't matter whether there's a body there or not. It's the mind. What are you thinking about someone or something, some situation? It's a checkpoint. And it's your checkpoint to happiness or your checkpoint to pain and suffering. Those are our two choices. I was looking at the resistance of the ego. Everyone had a past that says this is not love. Everyone had a past that developed your identity again. But the weird thing is that we are the ones that are needing to be willing say yes. And the ego is saying at the same time, you can say yes, but you have a special dispensation because you were unfairly treated. You were treated and with unfairness, and you believed you were unloved. And because of that, the ego convinces that you can take your time. You can back up, you can come forward a little bit, and then in that coming forward a little bit, instead of jumping into the ocean of love, you walk around the edge, kind of sticking your toes in it a little bit. But the ego keeps saying, but you don't have to do this because you were unfairly treated. So you can do it next lifetime. This is the ruse. There is nothing that God would give you for you to be able to take your time and wait as if it was helpful to you. It's it's a declaration of acceptance to dive. Not diving, there's lots of times when we don't dive. But when you consistently don't dive, you're just on the shore. And then you can talk about it, but you're not really in it. You're playing on the edge. Ask for that courage to break that trance that says, I have special dispensation because I was unfairly treated. Who unfairly treated you? That's the next question. Wasn't God, even though you probably in somewhere, because almost everybody has projected that onto God, that it is God that didn't save you, that God that didn't rescue you. But once you recognize that it's all in the mind, you accept that it's all in the mind. It isn't God's. And yet God answers the call of your willingness. And that's why it's so essential, because the willingness says, I made that up and I want to let it go. I made up this identity of being unfairly treated. I made up this identity of being abandoned or lost or alone. It, and and as I made it up, I'm not guilty for making it up. I'm mistaken completely. I bought the lie. I'm saying I bought the lie because I bought the lie. It's like buying a used car, driving it off the lot, and the engine falls out. I bought the lie. The letting go of the belief of being unfairly treated goes so deeply because it wants to run the show. It wants to run your journey. And it satisfies an element of the journey, which is that the ego is basically saying, I don't want to. I don't want to have to dig too deep here. I want to have it move in my estimation. There will come a time when you get really, really tired of the slow motion, and your yes gets louder, your yes gets stronger. You wake up in the morning and you're already ready for the love of the day, the learning of the day, the yes of the day. And the yes of the day starts to also break through the story. The story is everyone that has come into your life, beginning from incarnation, they all had an identity that countered your identity. And the strangest thing is, if it's not really that strange, but for the rest of your life, until you're willing to really surrender those identities, including your own, into the hands of God, until that is released, everyone you meet will carry those roles. They won't be so obvious that they're like a spitting image, but they carry enough of the same agreements that you have in your mind that you're in the revolving part of your dance with being very, very young. And they all are there to, everyone shows up as the opportunity of, now it's time for this to heal. Now all those relationships are ready to be healed because here they are in these others. But they really aren't others. They're all reflections of what we have believed our past to be. And with each one is this golden opportunity, this perfect opportunity to surrender, because that's basically what it is. It isn't like you're doing something with the role and making it different or dressing them up differently or giving them different makeup or whatever. No, it's just that every one of them is to be surrendered. Every identity that's not who they are. And it's cleansing your mind of the ideas of who you think they are. Imagine that from the time of incarnation, there's a reserve of protection that you use with almost all relationships. And then in your ability to say yes and let those relationships be healed and forgive yourself for putting those identities on anyone, and that you want to see the truth of who they truly are. That's when your healing becomes so obvious, because you're letting go of your made up journey. To ask the question, who am I if I'm not that? And who are all these other beloveds? I want to see the truth of them. Because to let them stay the way they are is to hold them in judgment and identity. We can't help but judge when we give someone an identity. It's the very meaning of judgment, is that we hold them in a certain identification. And here is the offering to truly be freed from all roles, all identities, really to come home to peace, to harmony, to love, because there's nothing standing in the way. All paths, maybe a few exception of Western paths, but most paths have a central theme, a central way that it calls you to heal. Some it's deep prayer, some it's meditation, some it's physical labor, some it's silence for years. This path, prayer, meditation, yes, self-inquiry, absolutely. But it's most of the healing is through relationship with everything. You have a relationship with the chair. You have a relationship with your socks. You have a relationship with everything. And it is your relationship. It is your identifying makeup of it that gives it your relationship. If you believe deeply that everyone has something that they need to give to you, that's where we heal, is getting, that's it's such a disappointment. And that's the disappointment in the world that looks like turmoil. Every time there's a relationship, there's a fantasy. I'm not just talking about male-female relationships or intimate relationships of any kind. It's all relationship with a chair, relationship with everything. The examination is, what do I want? What am I here to try to get? Am I here to try to get something? Because if I am, I've taken a detour again. Every beloved who has tried to get worth through somebody else has always felt betrayed, because it is a sense of betrayal. They can't give us what we're looking for. They don't have it. They have their capacity of love. They are love itself, but they can't make you love. You are love. But to accept that love is to be complete. This is where the teaching, I have no needs, is so central. I have no needs. That teaching frightened me. I could even use the word terrified, because it followed me everywhere. I have no needs. Okay, how could I not have needs? So it's surrender, 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 because God was promising I had no needs. And yet everybody, including my own mind, said, oh yes, I do. I've always had needs. And I'm going to continue to stick with those needs until somebody finally saves me. When we look socially, look at the cartoons that are made for children. The prince shows up almost every time. It's a prince that shows up. And it's not because it's male female, it can be anything. But that's the hook. The hook is, I want to be saved. I want to be rescued because I was unfairly treated. And I shouldn't have to look at within. But eventually You raise the white flag. I could see peace instead of what I'm seeing. I have a choice. I choose the truth of love. I choose to serve everyone beyond what the personal says it wants. The personal says, I want to be the center. A lot of times doesn't say it too obviously so that it's kind of hidden. But there's the narcissistic part of the ego says, I want to be the center. I can't be the center if I'm serving. It's an automatic healing by association. If I am serving honestly, which is that my mind is in love with whoever and whatever it is that I'm here to love, I can't be in service and be the center. The service of love automatically takes you into union. The love is in our union, the union of our heart. And the union of our heart is the garden of love. There's no center in the garden of love. There's no one in charge. There's no one that has the answers. There's no one that is more than. And there is no one that is less than. There is divine equality in the truth of love, always in the truth of love. If you cannot hear the voice of God, it is because you choose not to listen. That was, for me, that was my medicine. If I don't hear the voice for God, the voice of God, I need medicine. I need truth to set me straight, to set me right, to get me out of my insanity, myself. You have to choose to listen. You don't have to, but it's much easier when you listen, when you have a yes, and when you serve instead of staying back and saying, I was unfairly treated, so come rescue me. When you wake up, it doesn't feel like a rescue. It feels like if you took every possible skill, every running of every race and jumping as high as anyone can jump and swimming as fast as possible and breaking all records of ability, and yet nothing happens. You wake up and it's everything. And all of those expressions of winning or losing become nothing. They are there to appreciate someone's journey, but there is nothing to win, there is nothing to prove, and you come home where you truly exist. The honesty of love. I must love, and I must serve, because it is the road home. And to serve without trying to get. It's a it's a deep study, because the getting just stays back just enough, like here, and says, "Oh, well, you don't even know that I'm looking to get, but I'm looking to get." And instead, it's like, come into your heart and give this moment and the day we will close in this moment with one heart.